Welcome back to Maine A, and man, do I have a great one for you today. See, this video is going to be the kickoff of us doing an LS swap on this truck. That's right, we're getting rid of this old piece of junk 4-cylinder, and we're going to put a modern drivetrain in it. No more clunky old 40 horsepower and 3-speed manual. We're going full-on 5.3 automatic, power disc brakes, air conditioning, all the bells and whistles. This thing is going to be great. We're going to find the biggest, ugliest 27-inch chrome wheels I can possibly fit on this thing. This thing is going to be awesome. Now, I hope you didn't actually fall for that. I mean, if you've been watching the channel, you should know better than to believe any of that. If you're new here, I'll cut you a break. But no, we're not doing a swap on this thing of any sort. We are going to get back on this, though, and try to get that engine freed up. If you are new here and didn't get to see the first video on this, I will post a link to it up in here. You can go check that out. There's just some pictures in there of us getting it out of the barn, going over it, and just see what kind of condition it's in. But for this video, we're going to jump back on this thing. That's the nice thing about having a truck. You got a place to put all the crap you take off it. Alright, let me get that stuff out of the way. Let's get fuel line, this vacuum line out of here. I don't know why there's a piece of rope here. I'm not sure what that was all about. Let's get that out of the way too. It's actually coming off. Look at that. If you're not aware, this is actually the vacuum line that feeds the wipers. These have a ridiculous vacuum operated wiper system that never works. So half the time, like on the black coupe, people just remove this and cap it off. And either put electric wipers on them or don't run any wipers on them. Which is what I've been doing. Right. It's fancy. Very fancy right there. Let me get that off of there. Like that. Alright, now we're getting somewhere. Get this rod out of the way. I'd really like to pull the whole manifold off, and I think I will. But let's see what the exhaust looks like. See if there's any critters up in there first. That's what they use for exhaust clamps if you haven't seen one of these before. There we go. See, you didn't fall out of it yet, so that might be a good sign. Well, I think that's going to be the best bet. Try to pull that manifold off. It doesn't look that rusty. I think it'll probably come off fairly easily. Alright, here's the big reveal. Let's see what falls out of here. Ooh, yeah. It's kind of what you don't want to see right there. Bring you on over here and have a look. Well, I don't think that's rodent stuff. I think that's just rust. But it doesn't look horrible in there anyway. I'm going to grab a flashlight and we'll have a better look. Yeah, that's not bad. It's not even into the ports. It was just in the manifold mostly. So the valves look good. The valves aren't even rusty. You can see the valve stems. I don't know if you can see them. Yeah, there you go. Stems of the valves aren't even rusty. This thing's way better than the Roadster was. Yeah, that one looks good. Now that one's a little bit rusty in it. So that one may end up sticking, but alright, I'm going to vacuum all that out. Get this manifold out of here, clean that out. We'll spray everything with some penetrating oil. Let it sit for a little bit before we try spinning it over, but I don't see any reason why this thing won't turn over. Alright, let's see what crap is in here. Oh, quite a bit. Oh. A little crappy in there. It doesn't look like any roads got in there, it's just all rust. So, I suppose that's good, maybe. Hopefully this manifold is good because I like to reuse this heater manifold. So it doesn't look bad. A lot of times they get really pitted around the ports there. This one's got a little bit, but it's not horrible. I think it'll still seal up alright. Yeah. I think it'll survive. Alright. Get rid of that damn engine pan. Looks like it wants to get rid of itself. Use much left holding it on there anyways. The frame bolts are still there. Alright, pop the oil return tube off. Try to keep the dirt out. It doesn't look very sludgy, so that's a good start. Big towel is going to be the side cover. So clean some of this shit off. Well, that doesn't look bad at all. That's actually pretty decent, I think. There's a little bit of sludge in there, but it doesn't seem horrible. That's probably a good thing we did that, because a bunch of crap got down in the distributor hole, and there's a bunch of stuff down in the distributor spring there, so if we didn't clean that out, that it would have ended up all in the oil, so that wouldn't be good. As you can see, some light in here. There's a little bit of sludge in that corner there, but the rest of it's pretty decent. I mean, there's some debris around the distributor hole. Like I said, it came down through the top, but the rest of this looks pretty good. I'm going to clean that out, and then we're going to start addressing these cylinders. I think maybe a little Scotch-Brite. Penetrating oil, clean those cylinders up. We'll just clean everything up really good before we try to spin it over. But I have a really hard time believing that it's not going to spin over easily. I mean, there's really nothing that can be holding it other than that one valve's a little bit rusty, but I don't think it's going to do much. So I think it'll spin right over pretty easily. We're going to find out here in a few minutes. Alright, so we get the valve cavity somewhat cleaned out. It's not perfect, I'll do a little more to it, but I got most of the crap out of there. The next thing I want to do is try to get all this crap out of the cylinders, clean up the cylinder walls a little bit. And hopefully then we'll be ready to spin this thing over. I'm going to start working on this rear cylinder, and the more I look at that, the less I really like it. I'm not sure what's going on, but it's got this kind of weird ridge like halfway down. I don't know. It doesn't really feel like a rust ridge. It feels like almost a deformity or something. It's kind of strange. Probably not good. Let's hit it with some Scotch-Brite, get the rust out of there and see what happens. Alright, so I soaked everything down with penetrating oil pretty well on this one. Before we screw this thing too much longer, I want to see if it's actually going to turn over. That rear cylinder is pretty ugly. I'm not sure what we're going to do with that just yet. But I don't think it's going to clean up the way I was hoping. But we should make sure it's in neutral before I go doing this too much. Jesus, it is stuck. Huh. Yeah, motor mount's a little broken. That's not helping much. Oh. No bueno. Well, that's surprising. Very surprising. I thought for sure this thing would spin over fairly easy. I guess it's possible that since there's no drain plug in it, it may have gotten moisture up inside and the cylinders below the piston could actually be rusty. If that's the case, it's not going to be a good turnout at all. Well, I'm going to squirt it again and leave it for the night, and we'll mess with it tomorrow and see if maybe we can figure something out with it. So I'm going to give it a shot, some PB Blaster around all the valves, rings and everything. And up inside, I guess it's possible the lifters are stuck, but I don't think that's the issue. I'll throw some of this at it. I'm pretty sure this is Marvel mystery oil. I don't really know. Probably should label stuff if you put it in different containers. It smells, yeah, I think so. We'll go with it. It smells right. I'll pour some of that in all the cylinders, see if that'll help to maybe loosen things up. Get some down between the valves there a little bit. Alright, I'll just let that marinate overnight. Hope for the best. Kind of losing hope on this one rather quickly, but still early. We'll see how it goes.
3 weeks later.
I've had it soaking for a couple of weeks now. Obviously, one of the cylinders has drained by, the other ones still haven't. I just threw some PB Blaster and Marble Mystery Oil that I had laying around in there. Try to get stuff to free up. I've tried cranking it over by hand, and so far it won't move. So the next step is we're going to have to get it off the dollies, get it back on the ground, and kind of like I did with the Roadster, just rock it back and forth in gear and try to get that broken free. So speaking of the Roadster, if you didn't see that video either, I will also put a link to that up in here. You can go check that out. When I first got that, the engine was stuck in that, and we managed to get that freed up and running, so that was a pretty good one. But now back onto this one. So the first thing we're going to do is get this thing down off the dollies. I'm pretty sure the rear tire on the other side is completely flat, so we'll get that swapped out, get this thing down on the ground, stuff it in gear, and see if we can get that engine to break free. We got it pretty well cleaned off, so hopefully we don't send parts and tools flying everywhere when I start rocking it back and forth. Let's take a look at the engine before we get going too far here. As you can see, the number 3 cylinder did leak by, so at least that one, we know the rings are somewhat freed up. The rest of them didn't budge at all. So, it looked pretty good, so I'm kind of surprised it's this stuck as much as it is. Same thing with the valves. The valves look pretty rust free compared to, at least compared to the Roadster, and that one broke free. So get all these rags out of here. Kind of see how clean it is in there, so kind of surprised that it hasn't broken free yet. But like I said earlier, it kind of concerns me that the oil pan was left without a drain plug in it for all this time, so I'm just wondering if a little bit of moisture might have found its way up in there. So I decided to leave a giant puddle underneath it, and I'm not sure exactly where that came from because I had a drain pan underneath the drain plug hole, so it should have caught anything that leaked out that way. I don't know if it leaked out of the side of the valve cavity there, or I put some penetrating oil in there, but I don't remember putting that much in there. But I guess we'll find out once we get a little more into this. I did try it by hand several times, and as you can see, the the motor mount is not really doing anything because it lifts up a lot when you push down on it. But I think we noticed that crawling around underneath in the last video anyways, so I'm not real surprised by that, but definitely have to address that. But yeah, it's still very stuck. Put a lot of force on that, and of course there's not much on these things to hold it, and the more you crank them up, the more you just tighten up the bolt in the crankshaft. So it's not a great idea to put a ton of force on that. So we're gonna stuff it in probably third gear and start rocking it back and forth and see what happens. I think we got it. Wasn't too bad. Just need that little extra push, I guess. Let's see how it goes with the crank now. Oh yeah, there's definitely quite the crusty ridge where that was stuck. I think before I go any further, we're going to get some Scotch-Brite, a little more oil, go in and clean those cylinders up. These two that are down at the bottom, we'll get those cleaned up so we're not dragging the rings across gunk and rust and stuff. And then we'll get it spun over a little more and do that to the other two, and hopefully that'll make it move a little smoother. So I got the number 1 and 4 sort of kind of cleaned up. This one isn't too bad. It's still got some marks in it, but there's no real ridge there. The back one is a little bit different story. That's got some pretty nasty ridges in it. I think my suspicion may have been correct that this thing got moisture in it from the bottom, because it looks like everything below where the rings were has got some decent corrosion pitting. So probably end up pulling the pan off it just to see what it looks like up inside there. But I think I'm going to run a hone through this if I can find one the right size. Maybe a couple passes will clean that up a little bit. It doesn't look very good, so. But hopefully we can get it turned over. And I'll get the two metal ones cleaned up a little better and see if the valves are free, and then we'll go from there. Like I said, we'll probably end up pulling the pan on it. All right, let's see if it turns over any better now. Oh, I'm just not very happy about it. These don't look bad. These look about like the front ones. So I think it's just going to be that back one that's really the issue. Actually, they don't have much stuff in there at all. Just quick one fills up. Well, if nothing else, I get most of the carbon off the top of the pistons. So. Mr. Oil is good for something. Alright, I'll give it a little squirt just so they're not dry. Keep an eye on the valves now, see if those are all opening and closing. Oh, that's better. A couple stuck. Let's grab a valve unsticking tool. A little shot down in there. Now, let's try that. Yeah, barely stuck. Looks like all the valves are good now. Shake down the front end while this thing is up. Just a steer box. Jesus, I think the kingpins are actually tight on this thing. I think that's just a bearing. Yeah, the kingpin's actually tight. That's crazy. On the other side. Ooh, that's not good. I think I jinxed myself. Oh, the wheel's loose. I would do it. Actually, it seems like both kingpins are tight. That's crazy. Usually they're pounded right out of these things. Let's roll underneath here and see what we got. Alright, took a quick roll underneath this thing. I pulled that engine pan off. It was half rotted off anyways. So if you remember from the last video, that motor mount was all dinked up. That's why it's lifting when you try to turn it over. I didn't notice before though that someone's already been preparing to pull the oil pan off because it's missing the front 3 bolts out of this. I think the rest of them are here. Yeah, it looks like it. Alright, so we'll get the rest of those off and see what kind of surprises hide up inside here. Oh, they are all very loose. I wonder if this has been off recently. Well, probably not recently. Yeah, they're like finger tight, if that. Now, normally, if you don't want to pull the oil pump out with it, there's a tool that you can stick in the side of the block where the oil fitting is. It'll hold it in place, but for this case, I want to take it out anyways, so. Doesn't much matter if it comes out with the pan. It's just plain stuck in there. There we go. There. Yep, still up there. Well, I mean, it doesn't look horrible in here. It's not. Cam is a little bit rusty, but. And the rods aren't all loose like they often are. So, like I said, it actually doesn't look that bad in here. If you watch the roadster video, look at the comparison, and it was way, way worse. And that thing actually ran pretty decent for what it was. And you know, I mean, the rods are super tight. Like, usually these things get worn and they'll rock back and forth. I mean, this thing is... Yeah, there's no playing any of those. It's pretty surprising. I never did check see what this thing had for mileage on it. Of course, that's probably not very reliable anyways, but... the bottom of the cylinder is actually pretty nice. Huh. I wonder what that back one looks like. That's really the lousy one. Yeah, it's got some crap in the bottom there. But really nothing looks horrible, you know. There's all kinds of sludge on the inside of that flywheel. Damn. Huh. Definitely losing some oil out through the back. That is for sure. It is very sludgy in there. Wow. Lots of oil. Oh, this doesn't look bad at all. Probably take it off and clean it up anyways. Cam's got a little bit of rust on the lobes, but I mean, again, compared to what the roadster was, it's pretty damn minor. Well, it sucks about that number 4 cylinder. I may pop that rear cap off just to try to tighten that up a little bit, because it is obviously, we've been losing a ton of oil into the bell housing, because man, it is gooey in there. So it would be good to try to close that up a little bit. So I think somebody has definitely been in here recently. That dipper tray is way too clean to have been running like that. And there's, I think the crap that's in there is just from what I've been doing. There's barely anything in there. Just the tray itself is really, really clean. So I'm going to pull it out of there. And even the bottom of the pan looks pretty clean. So I think this has been a part not too long before it was parked, or if not after. But alright, I got the dipper tray out after fighting with that for a few minutes, but pretty damn clean down in there. There's a little bit of sludge right in here, but not really a big deal. I'm pretty sure this has been apart pretty recently, because that tray is just super clean. But I'll clean that whole thing out before I put it back on there, but I want to pull that rear cap off and just have a look at that. So I got the rear cap off, and like most of these are, the rear babbitt's pretty smoked. The rear thrust area there is broken off, which is pretty common. And then the area between there starts to chip away, which this one has. It was actually there when I took it off, and it's just been, it was barely hanging on. It's just been falling off since I moved it. But there was a crack in it. I think it's down to the crack now. Yeah, it was cracked right there, so it hopefully won't go any further than that. I think they actually make repair kits for these. I'll have to look into that and see what it actually costs. I don't want to put a bunch of money into this thing with the cylinder being in the condition it's in, but if we can repair that for relatively cheap and maybe give this thing a chance, then we'll do that. But yeah, so I'll look into that. I gotta get a head gasket for it too. And so on the bright side, all the shim packs were still there. I don't think this has ever been apart to remove shims, so there should be plenty of room there to close this up if we can manage to fix this. So that's the one upside to it, but I'll look into that and figure out if it's worth messing with that or not. I may actually have another cap that I could throw on there too, and that might be a better option. But we'll look around and see what we can find, and we'll get back on it. Well, there you have it. This certainly wasn't the outcome I was hoping for, but at least now we know what we're working with. Got two somewhat badly pitted cylinders and the rear main cap babbitt broken. So I'm not ready to give up on it yet. I'm going to try to put together a little plan on how we might be able to fix this without having to do an actual full rebuild on it. So I've got a couple of ideas that I'm tossing around. The big thing is that I'm going to do it with it putting as little money into this thing as possible. I don't want to go dumping a bunch of money into it and then find out that in the end it's not going to work out. So obviously I'm going to have to do head gaskets and head studs. I'm pretty sure I have a head floating around that I can put on it. I'm going to try to address all the other issues for as low a cost as possible and just try to get this thing running and see what happens. So if you want to see what I come up with for a plan and see how this thing actually turns out, make sure you tune into the next video, because we'll wrap this thing up and hopefully get it running then, and we'll see what the outcome is. So as always, thank you for watching. If you guys do the social media thing, like I say every time, check us out on Instagram and Facebook. I'll put the links down in the description. I do post some parts up for sale on Instagram and also on my eBay page, so check that out as well if you're looking for anything. So if you wouldn't mind hitting the little like button down there, I'd appreciate that. That helps me out with the old YouTube algorithm. So once again, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.